I'm here with yet another stack of sweaters, so that means it's time for episode 6 of all the sweaters I have ever knit. Hello, welcome to Show and Tell Meg. I'm Megan, and I like to make things. As you can tell, I particularly like knitting sweaters. And in the 13 years since I have been knitting, I believe I am up to 38 or 39 sweaters that I have knit in that time. This is a series that I have been creating this year where I just take 5 of the sweaters that I have made over the years and break it down, show you all the particulars about it, tell you what I think about it now, what materials I use to make it, all of those kinds of things. And like I say, this is episode 6. If you have not caught this series before, I will link the playlist of all the other episodes that I have done so you can see all kinds of pattern inspiration and all that kind of jazz. But today's episode, we're going to be getting into a few of my oldest sweaters, as well as a few fairly newer ones that you might have seen on this channel before if you've been here from the beginning. But first, we are going to jump way back to, I think, the third sweater I ever made, which is the Marion cardigan. So this is an Andi Satterlund design. She does a fall knit along every year. And in 2014, this was the new released pattern. And so she hosted a knit along for that. So I had already made Andi's Miette cardigan and her Myrna cardigan, which I have talked about on previous episodes. So this was the third one I ever made, and it was definitely when I was a little more confident in my sweater making skills at that point. That said, I was trying to work from stashed yarn, and like most all new knitters, I got really heavy into cheap acrylic yarn because I caught a really good sale. So if you are of my era here, you might remember when Walmart decided that they weren't going to sell fabric and yarn anymore. And so they discontinued all of their yarn, put it all in clearance, and I got skeins of Caron Simply Soft in, I can't even tell you how many colors, and they were $1 or $1.50 a skein, which, I mean, from today's standpoint, that's way cheap, but it was still really cheap at the time. I think that at the time you could get it for on sale like $2.99 a skein. So I was just in hog heaven, and I literally bought like 15 skeins of it or something in this color. I can't remember. It was something ridiculous because I was apparently going to make everything in this yarn. But come to find out, particularly for garments, and because I like to sew garments, it's not really my favorite yarn. And hopefully this doesn't make any acrylic lovers think I am just a snooty yarn person. I'm not. I make animals a lot, especially back then. I was constantly crocheting stuffed animals. And so I thought that I was going to use it for that too. Come to find out, I really, really hate crocheting with Caron Simply Soft. It is incredibly splitty when you are crocheting. And so you were just constantly splitting the threads. I gave up on that pretty quickly. But it did come out for the knitting experience. It was just fine. It's a really pretty vibrant color. And I felt being very chancy with knitting this in an acrylic because it's recommended to be in a wool because this has cables in it. And typically, wool is what's going to show off cables to their biggest advantage. That's kind of the honored tradition, and what you hear from very experienced knitters is that cables always look best in wool. That's not to say that you can't do cables in other types of yarn though, and so this was a really good example of that. I started it off being honestly kind of worried, were the cables going to show up at all? And they definitely did. So very cute 50s, 60s design, nipped in waist, V-neck. It has this twisted cable that goes next to the button bands and up around the neck. It's also cabled in the ribbing just on the sleeves. And I really wanted to learn cables at the time, so I dove right in, and I managed to make this in a month, which for a new sweater knitter, that is pretty stinking good. I also happened to have in my thrifted button stash the most perfect buttons you could possibly imagine, both for the color and the design. They're Asian style. I forget what these are called, but they're a fancy knotted fabric that makes this 3D ball, and you sew them on like shank buttons. And look at that. Look at the color. I mean, They were so perfect. And I think I even only had 5 buttons, which is what this sweater is designed to have. So to this day, I'm still incredibly proud of how professional that looks, that the buttons are the exact same color as the sweater. And this is one that still fits me, and I still occasionally do throw on. Being acrylic, it's not necessarily my favorite thing. I mean, it's very soft, but it doesn't breathe. You know, I'm essentially encasing myself in plastic. So it's, you know, it has to be a little chilly outside. But since it's 3/4 sleeved, it's also very cropped. This was before I knew that for my body shape, I needed to lengthen things. But I think it's a really flattering neckline. It's a very cool color. So this is one that I have held on to and I do wear occasionally. It's not like all the time, but it does still get a fair amount of wear when it's cold out. Next in my pile here is one that you may have seen if you have been around since I started the channel last year. This is the Liesl cardigan by Isolde Teague. So this pattern itself goes way back in the knitting community. This was one of the patterns that put Isolde Teague on the map, I believe. This was published in 2008. I've always had this pattern on my radar, but I didn't make it until 2023. So in June of 2023, I went to the Hobby Lobby clearance sale and came across a limited quantity of Yarn Bee Cotton Elin, which is 80% cotton and 20% linen. They only had 3 skeins in this colorway, so I bought all 3. And when I came home, I was really excited about this color, and I wanted to see if I even had enough that I could make anything. And one of the patterns that seemed like I would was the Liesl cardigan. And so, honestly, just for experimentation, I cast it on. And next thing I knew, 6 days later, I had a finished Liesl sweater. So this is, to this day, the fastest I have ever completed a sweater of any kind. I mean, 6 days, that's insane. It's because this is a completely lacy design, and this is a worsted weight yarn, but you use like a size 10 or 10.5 needle. So it makes for really big open lacy stitches, simple feather and fan pattern. I also didn't even bother with figuring out buttonholes. I was just knitting, man. I was just going with it. And all I did was my trick of sewing buttons on and putting snaps underneath them after the fact. So this one, I was just trying to see how fast I could knit a sweater, and 6 days is my record to this day. Since this is very lacy, it's cotton and linen blend, it works great in Florida weather. I do really like the color. I like the design. I don't wear it as much as I thought that I would, simply because it has a rounded shoulder yoke, and I have very sloped shoulders, and so it tends to just want to fall off my shoulders. The sleeves of the shirt are not the best for showing this, but if you see that, actually, so my body is here, and so I have all this excess that wants to just sit right there, and that's just because the shoulders don't want to sit correctly on me. That's why I put these snaps. And when I first made it, I used those clear snaps, and they were in no way strong enough to hold this guy on me. These metal vintage ones are fine. They hold it on much, much better. But it's still, you know, I don't know. It's just the shape of me. I need a set-in sleeve, and I have just accepted this over the years. That's just what looks best on me. I also have toyed around, like I changed these buttons. I did have 2 buttons and that wasn't enough. I added these 3. I think I have one more of these, and it hits in kind of a weird spot, so I've always intended to sew that one more button on here, and I haven't. So it just feels like I had to end up tweaking so many things about this, and that's how you would have seen this before. I did a video where I was like going back and fixing things, and this was on it. So it's a good length though, and it is cute. I think I probably need to make an effort to wear it a bit more, obviously with a better shirt than this. Like, this is all bunching up the sleeves on this shirt. But yeah, I think it could be a fun one for the fall. It's a nice fall color. So this is kind of the time of the year that I should be wearing this, and I need to make a better effort. Now that I did do that little fix, I can try to find that 4th button, and maybe that would make me want to wear it more too. So this was a really good one. If you want a quick pattern, it's a great design. So just keep in mind if you are slopey shouldered like me, but as long as you have strong buttons that can hold it up on you and you keep it buttoned, you'll be good to go. Next in this pile is the first sweater that I ever made. I did a video quite a while ago where I roasted my earliest projects, and this was one of them. But even on that video, it doesn't get too bad of a roast. It's still pretty good. It's just one of those that it's not a style of sweater that I wear all the time. I like that 50s cropped kind of style. And this is a big oversized raglan, which is great. I mean, there's a time and a place for that, but Florida doesn't tend to have all that many of those times and places. So I made this with Craftsy's My First Sweater class, and I gotta say that was a great way to make a sweater. It holds your hand through absolutely everything. This is technically a free pattern from Lion Brand. I can't remember what it's called. It might just be called Raglan Sweater. I mean, it's an incredibly basic design. So it has a raglan sleeve here, and you all you have is this little lace design, which I can look at it now and know why they did that. That way you're able to make your raglan get wider without having to compensate for that in any way. You're not having to do a make one. So it's way easier. Construction wise, it really is the perfect first sweater. This does have you make it in pieces. So you have a front left, a front right, a back, and then 2 sleeves. And it shows you how to seam it in the class. So that was great. This is made in Lion Brand Woolies, which is an acrylic wool blend. I did the navy colorway, and I'm really glad that I went with that color because navy does match pretty much everything in my wardrobe. And yeah, it's just a big oversized sweater. I did decide to get fancy, and I followed a tutorial by Susan B. Anderson on how to make pockets. They are tiny and kind of useless, but they're cute. I think it adds a little something to the front. I also made a pretty long collar on this so that it gave it like a shawl collar kind of look. If it's cold, I can pull that up around my neck, sort of scarfy style. So it works great for lounging around the house. If it happens to be cold in your house, it doesn't really tend to be cold in my house all that often. I have been known to bring it to work with me when it's colder outside. And you know, it's a little fuzzy. It could use a shaving. I shave it periodically, but it's held up really great. I made this over the course of a month in January of 2014, and it's still going strong. So this is technically the sweater that started it all, and I just can't bear to get rid of it. I mean, it's still technically useful. And so even if I don't wear it all the time, I'm proud of what I made and that it is still a useful item. This next project is another that was in a different kind of video. I did a video a while back that was how UFOs saved my sanity. I had all of these unfinished objects. It was during the time I was getting divorced, and I just did not have the brain capacity to be planning new projects and starting them. But I had quite a few projects that I had started over the years that I just hadn't finished. And so I fell back on those and managed to get a whole bunch of them done. And this was one of them. I was given this yarn by Love Crafts in sort of an influencer program. They offered to send me yarn in exchange for a review of the yarn and all of that kind of thing. And I had the best intentions, but I ran into snags, and then I was getting divorced. And so I started this in May of 2018, and I didn't finish it until August of 2019. So when your life is falling apart, you kind of have to set complicated sweaters aside. And so I've always felt bad. I'm sure Love Crafts would never want to talk to me again. But I did eventually post about it, and I did review the yarn, and it's a lovely yarn. So this is Mila Mia Naturally Soft Cotton in the Flamingo colorway, which is this fantastic coral pink. And it's a really nice, soft fingering weight cotton. It's one of those that I just kind of chose the wrong design. And not because the yarn didn't work. The yarn worked beautifully. And I love this back. So this is the Dahlia cardigan by Heather Zappetti. And this was in Interweave Knits Fall 2011 magazine. And I saw that and I loved it. And I had wanted to make it for years and years. And so when the company contacted me and offered to send me the yarn, I said, yeah, I'll make a sweater. And I had this one in mind, and that's what I did. And to this day, beautiful, beautiful back. I love this lace design, and it's pretty cool. You start in the center and knit outward, and you make the square that is the back piece. You pick up and knit along the side of it to make the front and the back drape pieces, but you do have to seam the top and the bottom. There's kind of no way around that. But other than those two seams, the rest of it is all seamless. Like you grab the stitches for the arms and all that kind of thing. Just like my complaint with the Liesel sweater, this is another that it just wants to fall off of me because I have such slopey shoulders. I really just have to accept that I need a set-in sleeve. And so that's one of the reasons I don't wear it, because I feel like it actually makes me look wider, because see, it's out here, but my actual armpit is several inches in, and I just don't like that. I would rather it be kind of hugging something about my body. And I don't know, just looking at it here, it just makes me look wider, and I don't really like that. It has those drapey art teacher kind of fronts, which were very much a thing in like 2010, right? We all had those kinds of sweaters. They were never my favorite though. And with it being a seamless construction like this, it's very unstructured. And also this cotton yarn doesn't have a lot of structure either, but I don't think a wool would either. It just wants to kind of flop. I don't know. It's just not, the front is not my favorite. It's got that long drapey thing. I did like the look in the magazine where you can kind of overlap like this, but even that, it doesn't hold that way very long, and it takes a lot of futzing to get it that way. And I mean, but look, like the sleeves are beautiful. I have honestly contemplated taking this apart, keeping the back mandala piece, and then pretty much building a basic set-in sleeve sweater out of it, doing this same detail. Like, I think I have the capability of doing that now, but with the last year, it's been kind of crazy. So that's always been in the back of my mind, that I would really like to make this into something that I would actually wear. And I'll be excited about it. I'll pull it out of the drawer and I'll put it on. It'll match my outfit, and then I put it on and I'm just like, it feels like I'm wearing a blanket or something. It's kind of what it looks like. So it's just not my favorite. And that's really unfortunate, because this was a ton of work. For the time, I had not made all that many fingering weight sweaters. And so to do one with these huge drape pieces, like that was a lot of stinking knitting. And yeah, it's the back though. Look at the back. It's so pretty. So this back does deserve a sweater. So we're going to see. Maybe I will one day recreate this. If you're interested in seeing that, let me know down in the comments. And the last sweater in my pile for today is one that I showed in my very first podcast video that I ever posted, and that is the Belladonna by Andi Satterlund. I had this pattern, I don't know, for a few years. Andi had stopped publishing patterns a few years before, and I bought this one in the end, I believe. She did like half offer patterns before she kind of shut things down, and this was one that I grabbed. And I always intended to make it. It was out of this Halloween collection that she did. And interestingly, I ended up making it in a very similar color of yarn to what she made it in. And that was completely accidental. So I was given an incredible stash of really good quality yarns by a friend of mine. And there were only 3 skeins of this yarn in the stash. So this was another case where I was trying to see what sweater I could make out of this. And the Belladonna came up, and I'd always wanted to make it. So I decided to make it. So this yarn is Dream in Color Classy. The color is called Spring Tickle, and it's a 100% merino wool worsted weight. And it has the coolest, oh, that's perfect. That's showing like exactly what it looks like. It has the coolest, most putrescent green, yellow color to it, like very Frankenstein-y in my mind. And I made this, just before Halloween is when I cast this on, in October of 2023. I ended up finishing it in mid-December, so it took me like 2.5 months to make. I blame that time period on the fact that it has multiple lace charts, which it's not that I can't do that, it just takes more brain power, and I kept having to go back if I missed one row kind of thing. And I'm still sure there's a few mistakes in here, but I'll never tell. You're never going to see where they are. I'm sure that there are some though, but by and large, I've gotten to where I can do pretty good at it. This one has cool waist shaping. It ends up having sort of like darts. If you look between in the pearl section here, how it becomes smaller there. So it acts sort of like a dart. And this was the first sweater design of Andy's that I finally figured out, you know what? I'm going to make small size shoulders and angle out to medium at the bust. And it worked fantastically. This is by far the best fitting Andy Satterlund design that I had made up until this point. So once again, this is not the greatest shirt sleeve-wise to be wearing with this, but it is a cropped 50s style. Here you can see that dart again, scoop neck, lace front design. And even though I didn't finish it in October, since I started it then, I don't know, it's just always given me very October vibes. I love the color of this thing. It's so soft and comfy. I did even have the right color of Petersham ribbon to back this with. I used these cool iridescent-y mother of pearl buttons that I think really complement it well. And yeah, I do think it looks best when it's buttoned, but here you can see like that's perfectly lined up with where a set-in sleeve should be on me. And on a lot of my other Andy designs, it's just a teeny bit farther out. And so this really helped me to tweak how I fit her patterns. And I just love this thing. I was worried when I started making it that I wasn't going to have enough yarn. And I still have like 88 yards left. I think I used 2 2 2/3 skeins for this. So it's kind of interesting that it worked out that way. I got the length I wanted. I got the length of sleeves that I wanted. And yeah, so I wasn't going to go back and add any more. I just have a little extra. I find Andy's patterns, particularly if you are close to my size, like because I like them fitted, I knit the size medium in the bust, even though technically I should probably knit the large. But because the wool is stretchy, I get that fitted look that I want, and it uses less yarn. Like I'm kind of frequently shocked at how little yarn I'm able to use on some of her designs and still get a cute wearable sweater out of it. So this one, I'll admit that I haven't worn it all that much in the last while, but that's mostly because this is worsted weight wool and I live in Florida. But now that it's cooling off again, I'm definitely going to be cycling this back into the rotation. And actually, I think it kind of works even with the skirt that I'm wearing. So it's such a strange color, but I get compliments on it every time I wear it. So really, really love this one. It was a great combination of things. And so I don't know, some of my favorite sweaters have been where I was just, I have this limited amount of yarn, or I really want to make this pattern. What do I have that will work with it, and vice versa. And this was just the perfect marriage of yarn and pattern. I'm super thrilled that I have it in my wardrobe. So that is all that I have for you today. I hope that you enjoyed this. I hope that seeing some of these sweaters can inspire you. I know that some of these Andy Satterlund designs are not released yet, but she is working on releasing more of her old designs again through her Patreon. So if she has any of these, I will link that below. But these others are definitely available still. I will link all of the different pertinent information as well as my Ravelry project pages so that you can get all of the info if you would like that for yourself. Thank you so much for watching. If you did like this, please do give me a thumbs up. Subscribe if you want to stick around and see more. I do have more sweaters that will be coming out with this series. I try to do these every like 6 weeks to 2 months. So there will be more of these videos in the future. If you're interested in more of the different patterns and yarns and whatnot that I have used, I will be constantly giving you more information about that. And again, if you want to see the other episodes of my sweaters, I will link that below, and you can check out the whole playlist for yourself. So until next time, I will be working on yet another sweater, and I hope that all of your sweater knitting is going fantastic.